The game of chess started way back in the 6th century AD as a game called chaturanga. Over the next 10 centuries, it evolved and spread throughout Europe and Asia until it became the game it is today in the 16th century. During the mid-18th century, chess theory was created, and a little after that, the chess boards and pieces became standardized all around the world. Chess clocks were also popularized, shortening the average length of the game. Chess theory and knowledge was expanded greatly during the 1800s, but because strong defensive ideas had yet to be developed, the games were generally violent and attack-focused. Paul Morphy was the embodiment of this aggressive style and is considered to be one of the greatest chess players of all time. Towards the late 1800s, positional chess became more popular, with Wilhelm Steinitz at the forefront of this movement. Steinitz voiced his disdain for overly aggressive play, like Morphy's style, and preferred to close down a position and slowly grind out a win. Lasker, who had a similar style as Steinitz's, eventually gained the title of world champion, which he held for 27 years, causing positional chess to become even more popular. Capablanca then defeated Lasker and was known for his positional mastery. He was the king of endgames even before chess engines existed. Alexander Alekhine, the 4th world champion, became known for being the first dynamic style player, someone who could play both aggressively and tactically, but also quietly and positionally. For most of the 20th century, the chess world was dominated by players from the Soviet Union and Russia. Many styles of play emerged from there, including positional, aggressive, and dynamic play. Mikhail Botvinnik was the next world champion after Alekhine, and was known for his chameleon-like style, changing his play depending on who his opponent was. Botvinnik was also a trainer of 3 future world champions, Karpov, Kasparov, and Kramnik, and was known for being one of the fathers of computer chess. A few years later, Boris Spassky defeated Tigran Petrosian for the title of world champion, leading to the match of the century between Bobby Fischer and Boris Spassky. Fischer was an extremely unusual character in the world of chess, and after multiple unprecedented feats of victory, he eventually defeated Spassky in possibly the most anticipated World Chess Championship event of all time. After that, Fischer disappeared from the chess world, only to reappear 2 decades later in 1992 for a rematch against Spassky, after which he disappeared again. Due to Fischer's first disappearance, Karpov automatically became the next world champion, and was known for his solid positional play, which had been described as that of a boa constrictor. Another Russian legend then emerged, Garry Kasparov, who beat Karpov and had the second longest championship reign of 15 years. During this time, chess theory was also rapidly advancing, and the infamous match between the supercomputer Deep Blue and Kasparov resulted in the first time a computer had beat a world champion. After this, computers began to be seen as much stronger than humans. Today, computers are widely used by the top chess players, including current world champion Magnus Carlsen. Carlsen became world champion after defeating Vishwanathan Anand in 2013, and despite his young age, many people already regard him to be the strongest player of all time. Over 2 centuries ago, way before computers were invented, there existed an eerie-looking puppet that won almost every game of chess it ever played. It beat the likes of Napoleon Bonaparte and Benjamin Franklin, and instantly became a sensation all across Europe and North America. The puppet was called the Mechanical Turk, or just the Turk, and consisted of the top half of a man sitting behind a chess table housing gears and other machinery. Every match began with an elaborate demonstration that nothing was inside the Turk besides machinery, to convince the audience that it was authentic. Unfortunately, in 1854, the Turk was destroyed in a fire, and only after that the secret was revealed. Chess masters would hide inside the Turk and play from there. Many people had suspected that that was the case, including famous writer Edgar Allan Poe, but no one could explain how the mechanism actually worked. This fake automaton inspired people to genuinely begin thinking about artificial intelligence, and 200 years later, we now have multiple engines sitting behind a screen that can crush us in mere seconds.
Technology.
If you're anything like me, you play a lot of Blitz, even though you don't really know what's going on for most of the game. Today, Bullet and Blitz are 2 of the most commonly played time controls in the game of chess, but it's not always been that way. Only 200 years ago, the average chess match lasted 8 or 9 hours, and would sometimes even go over a dozen. The first recorded chess match that involved time control was in 1860 in London, using a sand hourglass. This was eventually upgraded to the analog chess clock, which was much more accurate, but it was difficult to use for complex time controls. The first invention of the digital chess clock was in 1973, and in the coming years, new versions and variations of this clock were released, with extra features and time controls. This was also around the period when lower time controls became more popular. Soon after, Bobby Fischer patented a new type of chess clock which would add a small amount of time after each move, called increments, so that players would have more of a fighting chance in the endgame. Nowadays, there are even chess clock apps, so it's not necessary to buy one yourself. On top of that, a lot of us play chess online, so we don't even have to use a physical clock anymore. What do you think the future of chess clocks hold? Bobby Fischer was an American chess prodigy, winning 8 straight US chess championships by the age of 14. By 15, he gained the title of Grandmaster grandmaster, becoming the youngest grandmaster yet. Several years later, Fischer faced off against a man named Boris Spassky, a Russian whom he had met previously, this time at the 1972 World Chess Championship, what was known as the match of the century. The Soviets had held the World Championship title for 24 years, and never had a single American held it except for the first ever world champion back in 1888. On top of that, Fischer had previously played 5 matches against Spassky and not won a single one. The pressure was on for Bobby Fischer. The match was to be played as the best of 24 games, a win being 1 point and a draw being half, and would end when one player reached 12.5 points. In between the matches, Fischer would often disappear and was unabashedly demanding about the logistics of the matches. His eccentric personality and the fact that the matches represented America versus Russia during the Cold War only added to the excitement. The matches were intense and wild. Fischer was previously known for repeatedly playing the same openings, but surprised Spassky by playing openings that he had never seriously played before. After 21 games, Fischer was named World Chess Champion with Spassky winning 3, Fischer winning 7, and 11 draws. Afterwards, Fischer instantly became a celebrity, but voiced his disdain for the current championship format, saying that it encouraged the leading player to just coast and play for draws. After refusing to defend his title for this reason against Karpov in 1975, he lost by forfeit. Fischer reappeared into the public eye 2 decades later in 1992, claiming that he was still world champion and demanding a rematch with Boris Spassky. The match was held in Yugoslavia and Fischer won with 10 wins and 5 losses, despite being the only strong player in the world at the time who didn't use computers. However, this rematch led to conflict with the US government, which was holding sanctions on Yugoslavia, resulting in a warrant being issued for Fischer's arrest. After 10 years of living in multiple countries such as Hungary and the Philippines, he was arrested in Japan for attempting to use a revoked US passport to board a flight. He was eventually granted Icelandic citizenship, allowing him to live there until he died of kidney failure at the age of 64.